Hello, and welcome back to the Alberta Farm Fresh podcast. I'm your host, Kathryn. You know how some people follow the rules and others rewrite them? Today's guest, Rick Barr of Barr Estate Winery, falls in that second camp. He and his wife, Amy, have built a life that doesn't fit the mold. Their fruit wines taste like $1,000,000. Their property feels like a fairy tale setting. And their customer service reflects genuine kindness and a business model that puts customers first. Best of all, everything they offer is accessible and affordable. And now they're building a nonprofit to help other charities thrive. Rick and Amy are scientists at heart, which means every bottle they make blends chemistry, curiosity, and a whole lot of heart and beauty. I'm so proud to share this conversation with you. Let's meet Rick.
You have a wedding this weekend?
We have a wedding in 2 hours.
Oh, okay. So do we need to wrap this up?
No. The whole point of our biggest selling feature for weddings is we don't do anything. So you come and we're one of the most inexpensive places to get married in the area, but we don't do anything. You rent the spot, you set up everything, you set up all your chairs, you put up your flowers, and you have to clean up when you're done. And if you want to bring in, you can bring in your own booze, you can bring in your own caterers, you can do whatever the heck you want. Just write us a check and we're good. All we have to do is remember to open the darn gates in the morning, which today we forgot. So anyway, we're good.
Since we are recording and since we are on this topic, tell me a little bit more about your events business.
We've done corporate barbecues. Corporate barbecues got us started because this was a number of years ago and we weren't doing them at the time. And I met a fella at called a Growing Rural Tourism Conference in Camrose. And he worked at a hotel, I don't remember the name of the hotel, on White Avenue. And they were going to do a customer appreciation night. So they wanted a place to do that. They're basically going to have a big barbecue or whatever for a number of their clients. And because him and I had met, he went to the chef and said, why don't you give Barr Estate a call and see what they do? So they called us. And Amy and I are like, we don't know. It could be a lot of work. And we weren't sure because we'd never done it before. And so we're like, you know what? We'll send them a stupid number. They're going to say no. And then we'll just carry on with our lives. Well, they didn't say no. And so they came the event was on a Saturday. They came on a Friday with a whole bunch of trucks. They set up all those big white tents and whatever else that they needed. They came in Saturday, had their due. They were there till, I think, 10 at night or something like that. Pretty big due. And then on Sunday, they came back with all their trucks, took down all their tents, cleaned up all their mess, and handed us a check. And we're like, oh, okay, we can do that.
That was easy. Where's my easy button?
Exactly. So ever since then, we started doing weddings. And it's been really quite good because we do fill a niche in the market in that first of all, a lot of people want to get married outdoors. People come here to get married outdoors, even though we have a building so they could do it inside if they wanted. They want to be married outdoors. And so we have a nice setting for that. But we're also fairly cheap compared to a lot of other places. There's a place down the road near Toefield, beautiful property, absolutely gorgeous. But it costs tens of thousands of dollars to get married there. And from the pictures that I've seen of the property, I understand why. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And there's some people who that's what they want to do and they can afford to do that, and that's fine. But we're the other end of the scale, more budget conscious people like we were when we got married. So yeah, that's a really big part of our business now is doing events, mostly weddings, but we're trying to do more. We had a fellow contact us from, I don't remember the name of his business, but they do outdoor concerts and they wanted to do a concert here, and which I've always wanted to do. I would love to do concerts here, but we decided that right now we're not quite ready for that, but hopefully working our way towards doing something like that.
Yeah, you could start with a small small fire pit kind of concert, something intimate, something like a birthday party, and work yourself up to something a little bit bigger. So if someone would want to use your facility for their wedding, how would they go about booking you? Yeah.
Generally, our weddings are booked a year in advance.
Gotcha.
We will, if we have a weekend opening and someone asks us a month before, of course we'll take that. Amy does takes care of that side of the business, so they would just contact her and then make arrangements. Usually they like to come out and see the property, see what's available to them, so they have a good idea of what they're getting themselves in for, and then they just book it, and away we go. So usually we give them 3 days, obviously. So usually the wedding's on a Saturday, not always. Like today, it's not on a Saturday, but Friday is setup and rehearsal. So they come out and set it, because they have to set everything up as well as take everything down. So Friday they do the rehearsal and whatnot. Saturday, obviously, they do the wedding. We will do a reception in the building if that's what they so desire. And then on Sunday, they can come back and clean up everything that they need to clean up. And we do hold a deposit on them for that. But I don't know how many weddings we've done, but I think once we withheld a little bit just because it was a little bit of a mess on one. But generally, people get their deposit back. So it seems to work out well.
And it's as simple as going on your website and contacting Emmy and just, finding a time slot that works for everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome. But you're not just a wedding / event venue. You're above all a winery. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, okay. So Amy and I have been making wine since around 1990. We started in our house, just a lot of people do. And when we lived in the city, we had fruit growing in our backyards. We used that fruit to make our initial wines. We moved
the bootleg version of it.
The what?
The bootleg version of it?
The bootleg version. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's not like we invented it. A lot of the people who live in the hills have been doing that for a long time. And then when we moved here in 2002 to the farm, we didn't move here because we were going to become a winery. We moved here just because we liked the place. And then in 2005, they came out with what's called the Alberta Cottage Winery License. And you only had to make a total of 4,500 liters a year in order to have that license, or at least have the capacity to do that, which in the winemaking business, that's extremely small. So we were able to do that. And we said, hey, we might as well get into the wine business. And so Amy and I tend to jump in with both feet and figure out how to swim. So that's kind of what we did. And now we've been doing it. We made our first wine in 2009. And so we've been at it for 16 years now.
Wow. And you started it by yourself, and you're still grassroots where you do things from A to Z by yourselves, correct?
We're pretty much a two-man operation. We try and get help when we can, but a lot of times it's just Amy and I who do it all, which is part of the reason why we're a pretty small winery compared to other wineries in the province, but we call ourselves a little mom and pop winery.
Exclusive.
Oh, okay, sorry, we're exclusive. Yes, okay, that's you marketer, you. So yeah, we're just a small little mom and pop wineries, and we like it. It's fun.
What do you specialize in, or do you specialize in a specific type of wine? And what can people expect?
So we do fruit wines as opposed to traditional grape wines. When the industry started in Alberta, you were required to be able to grow all the fruit that you want to make your wines from. We do not have the climate in Alberta to be able to grow good quality wine grapes. So we started with rhubarb and raspberries. The raspberries we actually used were started by my wife's grandfather when he first homesteaded in Strathcona County. And so he had a very large raspberry patch. And when his children left and started their own farms in and around Strathcona County, they took some of his raspberries to start their raspberry patches. And then we went and when we started ours, our 2 acres of raspberries, we went and saw Amy's aunts and uncles and were able to pull out about a bunch of little raspberry fingerlings from their property in order to start ours. So we planted one season, like 20 or 30,000 raspberry plants to get our 2 acres started. We now do a rhubarb. We do the raspberry, of course. We do a rhubarb strawberry and our famous Carmen Jewel sour cherry, which is a fortified sour cherry wine, which has become extremely popular. It's without question our best seller right now. There's certainly an alternative to grape wines. We always say we're not trying to replace any of the wines that you have in your wine cellar. We're just trying to add some variety to it.
Can you describe a day in your life? I'm curious, what does it take to be a company like yours that's just like small and that where you do everything from A to Z by yourselves? What does it take? What does a day in your life look like?
Boy,
It starts at 4 a.m.
it actually does, but I don't know why. I just like getting up really early now. So I do. But we're very seasonal. So there's different jobs that we do during different times of the year. So in the winter or fall, that's when a lot of the processing of the fruit goes on, as well as the making of the wine. We try and avoid making any wine in the summer if we can, though sometimes we put ourselves into a position where we have to do it anyway. Best laid plans of mice and men. We deal a lot with customers during the summer. Most of our sales and things happen from, say, May to September. We spend a lot of time in the gardens. If not harvesting fruit, it's just dealing with weeds because we don't use herbicides on our fruit. So most of the weeding is done either mechanically. If I can get a machine on it, I will. But other than that, it's done with a rake, a hoe, and by hand. So that keeps us busy. Currently, all of our fruit is picked by hand. So right now, we're August 1st. We're in the middle of picking raspberries. So we'll do that for about 3 weeks. Our days are kept very busy, and we're a farm as well. So we have animals. We mostly raise sheep, but we have a cow with 3 little babies. And so taking care of those keeps us pretty busy as well. Yeah, it's just farm. We're a farm. You do farm stuff all day long. There's always 1,000 things to do on a farm. So
Yeah, a lot of chores, a lot of mucking and
yeah, we got 2 cows because my wife's cousin Doug, who is a generational farmer, his family's been farming for generations. Him and Amy decided that we should try having some cattle. So yeah, that was an experience. So we still have 1 cow left, and she just had a calf, and we have 2 calves that are about a year old that are still here, and it's a whole different ballgame. Doug's been working with cattle all his life. With us, it's like I can manhandle a sheep if I have to quarter a sheep or hold a sheep or whatever. I can do that. Amy has to do the kind of the vet stuff, but I'm not holding the cow. It's not going to happen. The cow wants to move, the cow moves. Cattle farming is a completely different way of life than sheep farming, and you have to be set up for it. And as we've had to learn to think like sheep, you also have to learn to think like a cow. And I can deal with a ram coming at me head on, but I can't deal with a cow coming at me head on. So it's different. It's fun. It's probably won't last much longer than this year for us for cows, but mostly we're sheep. We've held alpacas before, which are great. We have donkeys right now because the donkeys are great for taking care of the sheep as far as guarding them. But we do have a little foal this year, so that's nice. Amy really loves the animals, so it's a big hit for her. Chickens, we have chickens, free-range chickens. They're all over the place, running around the yard. People really like the chickens.
So in addition to the weddings, the winemaking, the animals, you have a U-Pick, right? So you welcome people to come and pick raspberries.
We do, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
You basically just let us know. Our contact information is online, and of course we have pickers that keep coming back each year. Contrary to popular belief, we do not weigh our children as they go in and out of the field. Though the kids always come back with raspberries all over their face. We do it several ways. So people can come and pick for $5 a pound, and whenever they pick, they take home. We have some people that will come and pick and they prefer to pick for free, which we let them do. But then we take half of their berries and we use those berries for making our wine. So that serves two purposes there. It all depends on what they want to do. And then we have some people that we hire if we can find pickers, and then we just pay them for what they pick and we keep all of their berries. But yeah, they can basically just contact Amy and she'll take care of that for them.
A U picker would come onto your property. Could they also visit the animals?
The animals draw people like nobody's business. And as soon as they, which you can't miss them. So as soon as they see them, everybody seems to want to go over and see the sheep and the cows and whatnot. And especially if they have children, then of course the kids always want to see the animals. People always seem to want to see everything that we have, and we're completely fine with that. It's who we are, so that's fine. Yeah.
And I also read on your website that you actually do organize tours. Tell me a little bit about that, what that entails.
Okay, so we do tours on Saturdays and Sundays at noon, 2 and 4. What those entail, it takes about an hour. We do a tasting of all 4 of our wines, so you get the trial of our wines. I go through everything that we do to make our wines. You could essentially walk out of our place and start making your own wine if you wanted to. But we go through everything that we do, from the initial pressing, the picking of the fruit, to pressing of the fruit, to the actual bottling of the wine. And that usually runs about an hour, and we do charge for that. It's $15 a person. But anyone under 18 is, like, we encourage people to bring their kids because the kids like the place, but we don't charge for the kids. The kids are always free. But yeah, we do a lot of that. That's a big part of our business too, is just doing tours. So.
Earlier, when we started our chit chat, you were saying that, where have you been all my life? I'm going to say the same thing to you. Where have you been all my life? My goodness, we're basically neighbors, and I didn't know about you. And yeah, we're going to change that, because I think more people need to know about the great stuff that you do and the amazing family activity that this is. I think it's such an amazing way of connecting with nature, and it's literally in our backyard. Like, what, you're 20 minutes from Fort Saskatchewan?
Oh, yeah. Easy.
So about 30 minutes from Edmonton?
No, not even that. With the ring road especially, we're probably, to be actually in Edmonton, 5 minutes. We're really close. We're very close. One of the things that I tell people is that we're far enough out that you feel like you're out in the country, which is extremely true. But we're also close enough to the city that we're very convenient to get to. Amy and I are extremely lucky to have found this place, and it's a dream for us. We love it, and it fits the best of many worlds. And we're still close to the city, so Amy still works, so she can get to work quite easily. But we have the quiet of living in the country. I know when I go to this, we've been here for 23 years now or something like that. When I go into the city now, it just drives me bonkers with all this traffic and all these houses and all these people. I want to go home. So yeah, we love it. It's great. It's a great place to live.
And yeah, a lot of people, the people that live in the city, a lot of them love it, and some don't. They live there because of necessity. But I think what connects us all is that love for nature. People want to go out to the country. People want to have these experiences. And going to a U-Pig farm, oh my gosh, that has a winery on top of that. It's such an amazing experience, and it's such an amazing way of connecting with your family, right? You get to learn things and you get to experience things. It's like an all-inclusive that's 15 minutes away from home. So yeah, we definitely have to get the word out. Yeah, I could totally envision myself doing some Tai Chi on beautiful space.
Have you done Tai Chi?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we used to do it. Amy and I took Kung Fu, Wing Chun Kung Fu a long time ago. But yeah, it was
really?
Oh, yeah.
How was that? So yeah, you mentioned that like the Boys and Girls Club could come out and have a special outing at your venue.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you are into martial arts, maybe that is a cool opportunity to partner up with a martial arts outfit and invite them to have a practice at your venue or even a competition. You could have a sports competition, like sports tourism at your
Right. And that's actually something that I completely forgot about is, so for example, I met a fellow at, I can't remember where it was, but it was an event that Strathcona County was putting on about developing agritourism in the province, or at least in Strathcona County. And he's heavily involved in cycling. And so while he's an older gentleman like myself, so he doesn't really compete, but he is involved in organizing cycling events, competitions. So we're looking at with him to perhaps us being a host for something like that. So there's probably a number of different sporting events that we could host out at our place. Or if not sporting events, we could do things like classic car shows and things like that. Those are all on my list that I'm going to be looking into doing. I do not participate in martial arts anymore, and I have no interest in trying to do that anymore. But I'd be happy to have them come out here and train. That'd be great. Sure.
That would be awesome. So let's talk about the nonprofit that you're building. What was that thing that lit up that desire in your heart to do this?
The guiding force behind the not-for-profit is really that Amy and I don't have any kids, and if we had kids, this would be a completely different story. But because we don't have any children, and we have the farm and we have the winery, we're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but we're not broke either. We're always concerned about what's going to happen when we pass. We're old, but we're not worried about that in the near future, but it's obviously something you have to think about, right? So we decided that we'd start the nonprofit so that at one point in time, in the big scheme of things, that everything that we have, our farm, our business, all of that would eventually roll into the nonprofit. And ideally, the nonprofit would eventually be taken over by another charity of our choosing. And hopefully they could still run the winery and run the farm and use that to raise funds on an ongoing basis. Yeah, whether that'll work or not, I'm not sure. We have to see how that goes. But ultimately, even if we got to a point years down the road when Amy and I are gone and our money gets rolled into the nonprofit, and then it would still fall under the auspices of a charity group, we'd create a foundation and the charity group would benefit from the foundation. That's super long term. From a short term point of view, I don't know. I think it's as you get older, you want to start giving back. When you're younger, maybe you take a little bit, but as you get older, you want to start giving back to the community, and so that's what we want to do. So we're fortunate enough to have this piece of property. We're sitting on about 20 acres, and even though we don't have a charitable cause that we necessarily want to create for ourselves, there's lots of really good charities out there, such as the Strathcona Food Bank, that we want to use what we have to help make them better. Could be just helping them raise funds so they can do events here at low to no cost, and then they could use the events to help them raise funds for their specific charities. So we are trying to, as much as we can, give back to the community. It could be simple as a boys and girls club, or we want to do this and we need a place to do it. So they'd call us and we'd make arrangements so that they could do it here. Any charity is more than welcome to contact us, and we can make arrangements for them to do some kind of a fundraiser here. That's where we're going with all that. And I'd like to be able to say that, oh, this is our plan for the next 10 years and we know exactly what we're doing, but we have very little idea of exactly what we're doing. But we hope in the long run that we can use what we have to give back to the community. And I think because there's any of the charities we work with, I'm sure we'll be more than happy to help guide us in a direction that can help us assist those charities. So I'm sure we'll learn as we go. And I have no doubt that we'll be successful in that endeavor.
I love that. I think I'm at that age where I also want to start giving back. This is why I do a lot of tutoring and mentoring. And I think, yeah, by giving back, we actually get so much more in return, and it's
Sure.
like a win-win situation. And yeah, I love what you're doing. In your humble opinion, what makes you unique?
What makes us unique? I don't know. We're simple folk. We're just farmers, and we like to think that we make a good product. And when you come here, we're we're just a comfortable place, I think, for people to come and relax. It's sure we're a winery and sure we're a farm, but we're also just good, down to earth people, and we love having conversations with people. And some of the best tours I've done, which have gone 2 or even 2.5 hours, have been because we just sit there and chat about life or this or that or whatever the topic is. And we're people, and I guess we're just people. We like to talk to people. We like to get to know people. The winery is almost secondary to us being able to just meet people and have people come out and enjoy what we have. That's something we really like, is being able to share that with people, and they can come out here and relax and just enjoy being out in nature. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
It does.
that's what I got.
Does. I love that. It does make you unique because your approach is very different from a lot of winemakers. Some winemakers, like, their product is the star of the event, whereas you, it's just an excuse to meet people. It's an excuse to connect people. And we talked about this before we jumped on this podcast, is the future is about
Yes.
connecting people and maintaining those connections, because technology is pushing us towards disconnection. Whereas, yeah, when you offer a safe space for people to connect, yeah, there's definitely a future in that. And I'm all about it. Love it.
Great. Thank you.
What was your motivation to start your business? Was it a practical one? Was it a passion project? What was it at the core?
Amy and I have always wanted to run our own business, always, since we started this, or just since we got started this, since we got married, since we started this thing called marriage. So we've always wanted to do that. So we've done things. We used to flip houses back when we were younger, and like we'd look out for properties that need a little TLC, and we'd buy them and fix them up and sell them. And that's helped us when we came to buying this place, buying the farm, because this place looked like crap when we got here. Like, the grass in the front yard was well over a foot tall. There was garbage everywhere. It was rented. When you walk through, the grass would move because of all the mice that were in the grass. But we could see, if you will, a diamond in the rough, because we had worked with so many properties that were run down, but we could see the potential of them, and that's why we'd buy them and fix them up. So we saw the same in this place, that it just needed a haircut, a little bit of TLC. So that's really why we bought the place. And even though it took us 10 years to buy this place, when we lived in Edmonton, the house we owned there was about 650 square feet. So basically a closet. We couldn't really have people over because there was no room. Like, just the two of us in there was just keep your elbows down because you might hit somebody with it. And so we thought we'd buy another house that had when you're just getting married, you can only afford what you can afford. We thought we'd buy another house that had a third bedroom, just a little bit more modern, a little bit bigger, third bedroom. So mom and dad could come over or whatever, right? And what we found was that we paid, now this is a long time ago, we paid $65,000 for that house. And when we went to look for another property, it was going to cost us between, let's say, 130 and 150, which I know is cheap now, but back then it was a lot of money for us, just to get another bedroom. And we're like, we can't do that. That's crazy for a room that we won't even use. So we'd go out every summer. We'd get all excited, buy a new house. Yay, let's go. And we'd spend 2 weeks looking, and we'd just get dejected. And then we'd stop for the summer. And then we'd try it again next year. We'd try it again next year. And we kept expanding where we were going. Like, and we eventually moved from Edmonton out into, we looked at St. Albert's, crazy expensive. Sherwood Park itself is expensive for just a young couple. And we went to see a farm, which isn't too far from our place. And it was too much for us. We couldn't afford that particular place. But the fellow who showed it to us, his wife was also a realtor. And he said, I've got this listing in my pocket that belongs to my wife. I just haven't bumped into her this morning because she's busy or whatever, but I'll go show it to you. So we said, okay, let's go see it. That's our place. And we drove in. We were here 5 minutes and we bought it. We were like, yeah, this is the place. We just love it. And oh yeah, starting the winery. See, I forgot where I was going with this. And so we decided that we'd buy it. So we moved here and bought, and we were very lucky because we bought it in the spring, but we didn't take possession until the fall. And that's when all the housing between the spring and the fall is when all the housing prices in Alberta just went absolutely crazy. So the realtor tried to talk us out of buying it for their realtor for the whole summer. He wanted us to take it. Oh, I'll take that off your hands, he would say. We go, no, we love the place. We're going to stay there. So anyway, we ended up getting this place. And then we looked at because we are still making wine. And this place has a kitchen in the basement, which was nice. So that becomes Amy's lab, right? Because we work in lab and research. That was our job at the university. So we, of course, created this lab downstairs where we'd cook up all our wines. And then I thought, oh, why don't we see if we can become a winery? And so we looked it up. And at that time, the license said you had to make 250,000 liters a year in order to have that license. And we're like, oh, you put millions of dollars into getting that started. You need a building, you need lots of equipment, we have to bring in grapes from California or BC or whatever the case is. We're not doing that. That's just too much for us. And then in 2005, they came out with the Alberta Cottage Winery license, and you only had to make 4,500 liters with that, which is quite a bit different from 250,000. So we thought, okay, why don't we do that? And then Amy and I we have an idea, we run to the end of the dock and we jump in the water and see if we can swim. So that's what we did. And we did come up with a business plan. I'm sure lots of businesses, especially small businesses, come up with a business plan. And then a year, 2, maybe 3 years into the plan, they go, this is a load of garbage. And they throw that away because you get real life experience, right? And all your little, like, for example, this is so silly. We are never going to go to liquor stores. We are only going to sell our wines at farmers markets. And the reason for that is because you're walking through the meadow with your wines, and farmers markets are so wholesome. And but liquor stores are like, oh, that's the corporate greed and blah, 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 all that silly little nonsense. But that's what we thought. And then now I tell Amy, part of the thing is when we sell to a liquor store, we have to drop our price a lot so that the liquor store has some room to mark it up, which makes sense. I tell Amy, if a liquor store drove up to our winery right now and said, we'll take every bottle you have in the place, but we're only going to pay you X, I'd say, go ahead, load it up, go. Just because there's no work, right? They hand you a check, you've done all the work, here's a check, and we'll take all your wine and it's all sold. So we'll never do that. But some days you feel like doing that. That's how it got started, in that we were experienced making wine. We've been making wine for quite a while. And then when we decided that we're becoming commercial, the first thing you really need to do is you cannot rely on your friends and family. They'll lie to you because all you're doing is giving them free wine, and they'll lie for free wine. We'll all lie for free wine. That's fine.
For a free buzz.
Oh, exactly. So then we got together a group of people at work. We had about 30 people who were helping us again for free wine. And of course, we had young people, old people, we had men, we had women, we had students, we had professors, we had lab techs, we have people from different countries from all over the world. So it was a really good, diverse group of people. And we had them all try our wines, and they all, of course, said, "Oh, this isn't that great." And because we'd been drinking it for ourselves, and whatever you drink, you just get used to. You don't really judge it so much as does it do what it's supposed to do? And we're like, yeah, okay, it does. So that's fine. And one of the things pretty much all of them said was it tasted too much like alcohol. And because we had it at 14% at the time. And so you either lower your alcohol, make less alcohol, or you sweeten it more, which brings the flavor of the fruit forward and covers up the taste. But lowering your alcohol also brings the taste of the fruit forward, the flavors of the fruit forward. So we decided to lower our alcohol, which helped a great deal. So now we're at 12%, and 2% makes a huge difference. And so we went through those growing pains and made a bazillion mistakes, and just continued to learn. And we're here where we are today.
You have such an interesting background. So let's roll it back a little bit. Like you said something fun that perked up my ears. So you guys were scientists, like you worked in the lab.
I met my wife at NAIT. We both went to school as basically lab technicians, so research lab technicians. And at the time, I could take my first year either at NAIT or I could take my first year in Red Deer. I took it in Red Deer. And so I met Amy my second year at school because we went to NAIT for our second year. So we worked at the U of A in a research lab at the U of A run by a fellow by the name of Dr. Gary Lopes-Schuck. And that's what we did for years. Like for years, we lived together because we were married, but we drove to work together. We drove home together. We spent all day together working in the same lab or in labs close proximity to each other. There's the odd time that maybe she'd work at that end of the lab and I'd work at that end of the lab, and we wouldn't talk so much. How that goes during the course of the day. But it was fun because we would talk science all day. That's all we do is talk science. What was your experiment like? How did that go? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And that's the fun part about working in science, is that you're always questioning things. You're always discussing things. And it's one of those jobs where nobody cares that you're standing in the hallway, leaning against a locker, talking to your buddy who works in a different lab, because you're talking science. He's telling me about the experiment that he did. And he goes, "Oh, I did something like that, and I had this problem, so I fixed it by doing that." And so that helps him get his job done more efficiently, and he would reciprocate. So it was a lot of fun. It's without question, it's the best job I've ever had. And I've done everything from when I got out of school when I was 17, because you could graduate way back then in 2.5 years. I started working the rigs. So I worked on the oil rigs for quite a few years, up into working in a research lab. And it's different, but you're always thinking. You're always getting educated and always learning, and always every day you're proved wrong about something, and which is good. That's because you have more information, you learn more. So you have to be willing to roll with the punches. And as you glean more and more information from not just your lab, from other labs and from scientists all over the world, you have to be flexible enough to change your mind on things, and because you have better information. And so it was great. We loved it. I stopped doing that in 2015. I think I was there for 16 years or something, because the winery was becoming too much to do on essentially a part-time basis. And so between the two of us, we decided that I should run the winery and Amy would continue to work at the U of A. She still works there now. She'll work there till she dies. She loves what she does. She loves the people.
Works at the U of A?
Yeah, we both worked at the U of A, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But she still continues?
She's still there, yeah. She's been there. She's got her 25-year pin or 30-year pin. She's got lots of pins.
And is she an instructor, a teacher?
No, she's a lab tech.
She's a lab tech.
Yeah.
Wow. Chemistry I've never been really good at chemistry, but it fascinates me. I think it's like witchcraft. It's like you create all these magic potions. I love it.
It's,
So let me ask you this. If someone would like to start their own wine brand, would you be able to assist them as like the formulator and then potentially the producer?
yeah, if that's something that they wanted to do, yeah. We've had people who are starting wineries that don't want to, we're not partners or anything like that. And we've helped them get started in getting their winemaking process started. We're very open to helping people. We're not concerned about competition. It's just not because, oh, we just blow the competition out of the water. It's just that, yeah, there's lots of room out there for everybody. And so we'd rather be friends with new wineries than be adversaries with new wineries. And because the thing is, you can't convince someone people are either going to like our wines or they're not. And we've had people come into the winery who, honest to God, fortunately it doesn't happen a lot, but they've come in, they've tried all our wines, wasn't their cup of tea. They were honest with us. We tried, they're just not our cup of tea. That's perfectly fine. Thank you for trying the wines. And that's going to happen. That's just the way it goes. And you could be the maker of the best wine in the world and someone's not going to like it. There's at least one person that's not going to like it. And that's because we all have different tastes. And if you're the best wine in the world, it's because a lot of people like it, but there's still someone who doesn't like it. So you have to get fairly thick-skinned in this business and realize that we've had people walk in and say, oh, what kind of wines do you make? Fruit wines. Oh, your friend. I only drink grape wines. And
and
where it goes.
I think it's the perception. So I think people that quote unquote don't like fruit wines is because they think that fruit wines are very sweet.
Yep, that's true.
Is
Yeah,
that true?
Most of the fruit wines that we had tried in our travels have been horribly sweet, and they tasted like they're being flavored rather than being made from real fruit. So I call it making it from Kool-Aid and just adding a bunch of sugar to it. So one of the things that Amy wanted to do was make sure that she calls it being true to the fruit and that our wines taste like what they're made of. And I think that's one of our biggest sellers is the fact that our wines taste like what they're made from and the fact that our wines aren't very sweet. They're a little bit, if the scale is 0 to 10, we're a 2. So we're a little bit sweet, a little bit dry. And we feel you need to do that because it brings the flavor of the fruit forward. So it tastes more like fruit. But I went to a winery in New Brunswick and they made a rhubarb wine and they like theirs bone dry. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with their wine. It was great wine. I would have sweetened it a little bit, me personally, but it was good. It was fine. It's just, and every winemaker makes their wines, and especially with fruit wines, because you have more, a lot of times with grape wines, the grape tells you how it's going to be made. With fruit wines, the winemaker has a little bit more control over that. But yeah, a lot of fruit wines have not been good that we've tried. I've been impressed with a lot of Alberta fruit wines, which is nice to know. But yeah, everyone I talk to comes in, oh, I haven't really tried fruit wines. Or if I have tried them, I didn't like them because they were so sweet. And then they try ours and they like the fact they're not as sweet and there's a lot more flavor to them. So yeah, it's definitely a perception that we have to overcome. It's one of the reasons why we went with corks instead of screw caps back in the day, because first of all, you're fighting the battle of it's fruit wine versus grape wine. And then back then, this is back in 2008 or whatever, any wines that had a screw cap on it were considered lesser wines. And at that time, it was true. Your cheaper wines had screw caps and your better wines had corks in them. So that's why we went with corks, is because we wanted to give the impression of quality.
But yeah, the perception has changed, right? Like nowadays, you have Mission, for example, in BC, right? They're huge. Their wines are expensive. They have screw tops. And I think, yeah, the perception has changed with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The perception with screw tops has absolutely changed. You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's, if we were to make the decision now, it probably wouldn't be because of the stigma involved with screw tops. It's just because we like corks. We like this down to the cork coming in the bottle. It's just more traditional. But there's a lot of really good wines that have screw caps. And it's much cheaper with screw caps cheap. So
Have you ever experimented or thought about experimenting with Hascap?
yes, I haven't tried a house cap wine yet, but I have talked to people who have, and they say it makes very nice wine. We made the decision a long time ago, COVID-ish time, that we were going to stick with, and this was before we knew you could buy fruits. Whether usually we get informed of these things, but we missed that memo that you could start to buy other fruits because we didn't want to grow anymore. We didn't want to grow other fruits because taking care of 5 acres of fruit is more than enough for 2 of us. So we decided not to grow any other fruits and just make the 4 wines that we have. I think as a in-house wine, like to make 30, 40 liters of it just for fun, I would definitely try it. And I've heard that it makes really good wine. Yeah. We've tried beets. We've tried pumpkin. I think those are our 2 main ones. The beet.
Beets and pumpkin, wine from beets and pumpkin?
Not combined, but
Not combined, but is it a thing?
I don't know. We just tried it.
And
the beet, so what you do when you make wine at home, you put it in a big pail, you stuff all your ingredients in the pail, you get it fermenting, and then you pour it in one of those big glass bottles called a carboy. When we poured it into the carboy, it congealed. So it turned into Jello in the bottle. And we're like, oh, that's not good. We don't know why it did, but it did. So that was the end of that experiment. And then we did pumpkin because we thought we'd just grow a bunch of pumpkins and make pumpkin wine. And what we had read said that you have to let it sit, you have to let it age for at least a year before it starts tasting somewhat good. And we tried it right after we made it, and it wasn't very good. And then we put some away and bottled it and let it sit for a year. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It still needed a lot of work, but it could have been doable. But then we decided we didn't want to grow all those pumpkins. So we should have, who is it? Is it Leona that grows pumpkins?
Yeah, Leona.
Yeah. See, I should have teamed up with Leona and bought all her pumpkins and made pumpkin wine.
Leona and Tam. Tam also, she grows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but she does such a good business just selling pumpkins that.
Yeah, she's sold out before the season starts.
Exactly.
No, that's not true. I'm sure she would love to collaborate with you. This is great. I love this. I feel like you're like this. Now I have a different picture of you. Like now I see you like this crazy scientist in his lab sitting and with vials and testing. And this is why you're very, what's the word? You ask a lot of questions. You're a thinker. You're not a talker. You're a thinker. I love that.
I don't know if I always was. I suppose I had a little bit of me in me, but working at the university helped with that because you're expected to ask. And we're very fortunate. So when you work for a professor, sometimes what they'll do if you're a lab tech like Amy and I were, you do an experiment, once you've done the experiment, you hand the results of that experiment to a grad student. The grad student works it up and they publish the paper and you're just discarding. You do the work and that's it. But the fellows that we worked for treated us like we were grad students and we worked up all our own data. We had the opportunity to write scientific papers. So both Amy and I are published in scientific journals. And whenever we presented our own data at lab meetings, as opposed to having the grad students do it. But at the same time, while we were allowed to present all our own data, you had to answer all the questions that came with that data. So you had to make sure that you were caught up on all the literature, that you had discussed what you're doing with all the other members in your lab to see what kind of input that they could give you. And it's not that you got in poo if you couldn't answer a question. You never got that. But if it was a question that you shouldn't have been able to answer, you were given you better know better for next time. So it helped us without question, become better at our jobs because we're continually educating ourselves. And even to a point, I remember one time I was we go to these conferences, right? They're like the American Heart Association or whatever the case is. And because my boss taught me to ask questions, I would always ask like a lot of questions. I'm always not trying because I'm trying to make the person look bad, not at all, but I'm just genuinely curious. And my boss, after one of these sessions, because we had a guest speaker, and he said, "You cannot ask so many questions." He said, "He's a guest, and we throw him through softball questions just to have him get through it. And then when we sit down in a lab meeting, if he's at our lab meeting, sure, ask him all the questions you want. But when you're at a conference, take softball the guy a little bit," which I didn't really know. But then when my boss allowed me to go to a conference and do a presentation in front of 300 people. And at the end of my talk, we do a bunch of slides, give a talk, whatever. Some guy asked me a question, and it was the biggest, fattest softball that anyone could have asked for. And I was like, "Oh, that's what you mean. That's what you mean by a softball." So I understood then why you do it and the meaning. You get into the nitty gritty after that. You don't do the nitty gritty while you're at the conference. Oh, I learned a ton and I love it. I love it. To this day, I'm the same way. I ask questions. I never take anything at face value. I always ask questions about things, and there's never, that's how we've done it all the time. And that's why we do it, because we did it that way. I don't take that. Not a chance. You can't get away with that with me. And I don't expect people to let me slide on those issues either. You should always question, always question. There's nothing wrong with it. And you shouldn't get mad at someone just because they ask you a question. It's education. It's have a conversation. That's me. Have a conversation.
Yeah. You're way too humble. You're way too humble.
You should ask my wife. She doesn't think that's true.
In my world, it's all about perspective, right? So in my marketing world, I do speak with a lot of peacocks.
Yes.
But yeah, comparing to all the people that I know, you are extremely humble. So I'm going to force the question here. If you would pick one wine out of the selection of wines that you have, which
cherry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You're asking me to pick a favorite, correct?
Yeah, your favorite.
It's my actual favorite is the rhubarb, because it goes so well with spicy foods, and I just love spicy foods. But the cherry is our best seller without question. It's more complex than any of the wines we have. The rhubarb, strawberry, and the raspberry, even though they're different fruits, we make them in a similar manner. But the cherry is just completely different. Most fruit wines don't really need to age, where red grape wines absolutely do in order to be nicer to drink. I think even though the cherry is nice to drink the way it is now, I think it would lend itself to aging. It's just such a nice, complex wine that I think aging would bring more out of it. It's one of those things that, even though I do get the odd person who isn't a big fan of it, but 99% of the time, when people are sampling it at our tours, and they'll try the three, yeah, these are good, whatever, and then they take a sip of the cherry and they look at me like they don't even have to say anything. I can see it on their face. It's, "Oh my God, this is really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." See, that's humble.
3 snaps. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I think it would act more like a traditional wine and would lend itself to aging. If we ever have enough to age, we just never have enough to age. But it's definitely our best seller, though my particular favorite is the rhubarb. On a regular drinking basis, something to have with food, rhubarb for me. But the cherry is, people really like the cherry. Yeah, we sell a lot of it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chat, be sure to subscribe and leave us a comment. And don't forget to visit www.barr.ca to book a winery tour, plan your next special event at their beautiful venue, or order one of their deliciously bold wines. Because Rick and Amy may break the rules, but when it comes to wine, they just follow good science. If you've got a story to tell, a passion project on your farm, or something amazing happening in Alberta's local farm scene, I'd love to hear from you. My contact details are in the show notes below. Until next time, keep growing, keep sharing, and stay farm fresh.